Right. So sounds like just check your posture, make sure you're feeling nice and comfortable and relaxed. Ideally with a nice straight back. Just turn your attention just for a couple of minutes onto the natural rhythms of your breathing. Just notice the subtle sensations as you breathe in, breathe out. Diaphragm moves down, the air enters your body. Again, as your diaphragm moves back up, expelling the air again. Notice those subtle sensations at the nostrils just as the air enters and leaves your body. Just in a nice relaxed way, just hold your attention up. Again, noticing those subtle sensations. Just do that for a couple of minutes. It's just to help to calm down your mind, get your attention more into the present moment. Become distracted, don't worry about it, it's not a problem. Just as soon as you notice, place your attention back at that point of the nostril. Now, I'm going to slowly, refuge and bodhicitta prayer. Feel free to join, no obligation. In my heart, I turn to the three jewels of refuge. May I free suffering creatures and place them in bliss. May the compassionate spirit of love grow within me, that I might complete the enlightening path. In my heart, I turn to the three jewels of refuge. May I free suffering creatures and place them in bliss. May the compassionate spirit of love grow within me, that I might complete the enlightening path. In my heart, I turn to the three jewels of refuge. May I free suffering creatures and place them in bliss. May the compassionate spirit of love grow within me, that I might complete the enlightening path. A particularly important part of there is about our motivation. The best kind of motivation we can have for any activity is Gita. That's the aspiration to become enlightened, to maximum benefit to all beings. But let's think that we're not here just to benefit ourselves, although that's very much part of this. You matter as much as anybody else. But also to put us in a better position to be able to truly benefit others. Try and set a strong positive motivation for being here this evening. Hopefully here to really share honestly and help each other. Bye. Okay. looking at ways to deal with afflictive emotions tonight. We're going to particularly concentrate on anger, although when we get to the discussion, we discuss other things as well. A lot of the things I say in relation to anger are going to be relevant to other things as well, to dealing with certainly things like jealousy, or also relevant to dealing with things like depression as well, but we can discuss that when we get to the discussion. We do put quite a lot of emphasis on problems with anger in Buddhism. Anger can be particularly harmful, and I think we all know that. It's sometimes said you can wipe away the effects of a lot of good karma with just a few moments of anger. Okay. And I think if we check our experience, that probably makes sense, in our lives. What I'm going to do, hopefully, I know you won't have received it, Nico. I'll tell you what we'll do. I will post, can you do that for me, sweetie, while I'm talking? I'm going to post my email in the chat bit, Nico. If you want to make a note of that and send me an email, I'll be very, very happy to send you the thing I'm now referring to, because I've emailed it to everybody else.
Oh, yeah, will do. Thank you.
No problem. So I'm going to type it in there now. You should all have received this, hopefully. I sent this out last week. Don't worry if you don't have a copy in front of you. This handout was actually compiled as a result of a session we did years ago on dealing with anger as part of a course called Being Your Own Therapist. And the students asked for this at the end. I have actually tweaked it quite a lot over the years. Some of the things in here have actually come out of discussions from doing this with groups. The reason I mention is this, you may well have your own ideas when we get to the caring part, and do please share those. They could be really, really helpful, and they might have, because it's constantly evolving this. These are just some suggestions. There are lots of them. You will inevitably find some of these you think more relevant or helpful to you than others, and some will be more relevant in some situations than others, obviously. Generally, if you're dealing with a particular incident of anger, you're not going to think about all this. But hopefully some of these things will come to mind, and be helpful when you're dealing with that. I'm going to rattle through this quite quickly. We started a little bit late tonight for a variety of reasons, and I want to give us plenty of time for discussion. So sorry, I'm going to rattle through it, but hopefully you all have this to refer to. Okay, sorry, could you take cheek? Thank you. Right. The first one on the handout is reflecting on the disadvantages of succumbing to anger. Now, this is relevant with anything with password use. You might have noticed that when we're studying something positive in Dharma, the first thing we did when we started this course, and this is often how things are presented in text, in traditional texts, the first thing they do, benefits of doing that particular thing or studying that particular thing or putting that thing into practice. Obviously, the idea is to help to motivate us to engage more enthusiastically the more we understand that. And I think that makes sense. And exactly the converse applies with something that we're trying to reduce. It might sound a bit silly with something like anger, because I think we all know what the disadvantages are of anger, or some of them. But I would suggest if we are prone to anger, and it's the ginger hair, you see. I mean, that is something I've had to work on very hard over, is anger. We sitting here now, we all know this, but when you're actually angry, it's very, very easy to justify it to yourself and see it as a rational reaction. What's going on? Of course I'm angry. Look at what they're doing. Of course I'm angry. Look at what my computer's doing. And to justify it like that. The whole point of really reflecting on the disadvantages is getting this deeper and deeper in our mind. And it helps us then be more mindful when anger's arising, so we can then apply antidotes, which we're going to get to in a minute. When I first took refuge with Geshe Tashi in the 90s, it was the first thing I asked him about dealing with anger. And the only advice he gave me was part of my practice was to reflect on the disadvantage of anger in the morning. And I'll be honest, when I left the meeting, I was disappointed. It was, was that it? I have actually found it incredibly helpful. And through doing that repeatedly and practicing it, it does mean I'm more mindful and I catch anger sooner when it's arising. So I can speak about that with some experience, and it is important, and it's true that with anything. It can be the same as something like depression, or certainly with something like jealousy or something like that. And as I've put on the handout, there are lots of different aspects of this. I mean, the first thing is look at the immediate effects of anger on your mind and body. These are very rhetorical questions, but is your mind peaceful and happy, or disturbed and discontented when you're angry? I think we all know that. We think clearly, do we make decisions when? I think we all know the answer to that, not really. You actually feel very balanced, I think, when you get very angry. And of course, there's lots of symptoms caused by lots of anger, and even reduced life expectancy and things like that. So they're all good things to take into account. Second on the sheet, and this is really, really important, obviously, is look how anger affects the people around you. And again, I think we all know that. I mean, even in very, very loving relationships, you know, a blazing row can still have a really, really horrible, takes quite a while to spout. Obviously, it can make the people you feel close to. It can also make you exacerbate problems with people you find difficult. It might cause them to be more inclined to come back and harm you more in the future. So these are all things to think about. And then again, the more we understand Dharma and the more we've studied and practiced Buddhism, there are much, much more subtle disadvantages based on understanding of cause and effect of the Four Noble Truths, how anger is related to those root poisons that we've talked about on this course, those root afflictions of ignorance, self-centered attachment, aversion. And it's just how it's helping situate these sort of negative states of mind, the root of our own problems, as well as stopping us helping others. So this is all stuff that we're encouraged to reflect on. I won't say anything more about that, but again, we could discuss all of this when we get to the discussion. The second one, and I know this is something I've banged on a lot about this course, but it's about being gentle with yourself. And again, it's really, really important now. Give yourself a break. Don't expect too much of yourself. Actually, being hard on ourselves can often be quite a big cause of anger. And that's really, really important. And again, I've put in the handout Lama Yeshe's quote, be gentle with yourself, you be gentle with others. Also, check, are you focusing more on the negative side of your life than the positive? I think we all have a tendency to do that. I definitely do. And that's something to be wary of. There are particular meditations which are very helpful, that sort of thing. One that I've mentioned here, again, I recommended Kathleen McDonald's book, How to Meditate. At the start of the course, there's a really good meditation in there called Appreciating Our Human Life. And that's a really good meditation to do once in a while. And it really helps us appreciate what an amazing opportunity we actually have at the moment with all the benefits we have to practice and transform ourselves. And it can be very, very good antidote, as I say, to that tendency of homing on the negative side of things. The third thing on this list is anger's more likely to arise in specific situations if we're feeling unhappy or dissatisfied generally. Now, again, it's a question of being, you know, looking after ourselves, check our overall state of health. Are you tired and stressed? You could be suffering from low blood sugar, hormonal problems and things like that. You could be feeling under time pressure, or something else might be bothering you. And it's good to be mindful of that. And quite often these things kind of catch up with us and we start reacting to the world in a negative way without really getting to the root of why it is that we're unhappy. And we might need to pay some attention to those things. You might just need a holiday or something like that, or a little bit of time off work or something like that. The fourth one on the list is reflecting and meditating on cause and effect, which is essentially karma, really, from a Buddhist point of view. I mean, karma is the law of cause and effect when it involves sentient beings, basically. I don't have to go into karma here. There's a whole Buddhist module on karma. But I will say the main thing, really good understanding of karma, is it really encourages us to take responsibility for our own problems and our own life, instead of being quite so prone to always identify external causes and as the main reasons, you know, for suffering or for having a problem. You might remember going back to week one, one thing I said there is from a Buddhist point of view, whenever we're experiencing problems or suffering, the root or fundamental cause is always in our own mind. And it's a good thing to remember that sometimes. That doesn't mean that we just let people trash us, and I've talked this quite a lot. External things do matter, but really, because we still have a choice within ourselves of how we react to things, and that's what we can really, really change in the long run from a Buddhist point of view. And just reminding yourselves of that can be really important sometimes. So moving along, I know I'm rattling through this a bit, but I'd really like to get to discussing all this. Number 5 on this list is embracing the apparently negative situation as a positive opportunity to apply your practice. And that's what we've talked about already on this course, and that's a really big part of these thought transformation practice, and the way I'm turning around negative situations into positive opportunities. The kind of situations that give rise to anger can be very good times to work on developing things like patience, equanimity, humility, loving kindness, and so on. So, but again, the more we can try and train ourselves to think like that, the more naturally it will start to happen. You know, it's a lot of our practice is really about changing habits, and it's about replacing negative habits that cause problems for ourselves and others with positive ones. But that's a good one. Right, number 6 on the list is reflecting on impermanence. This is actually really, really important, and so is the next one on emptiness and selflessness. So these are related, really. Firstly, are the problems as solid, important, or long-lasting as they currently appear? Quite often in the moment, even little problems can appear really, really big and loom very large in our mind. I think sometimes it's good to check our experience from the past. There were things that seemed really important to us a year ago, 10 years ago, maybe even last week or yesterday, that don't seem very important today at all. And that's a good thing to remind us of. Things will move on. You know, that's the thing. Another side of reflecting in impermanence, I'm covering a lot of ground here. I mean, again, these are really quite important Buddhist concepts, but this is very much just an overview. But it's good sometimes to reflect on the inevitability of death, which is something we're encouraged to do in Buddhism, and the uncertainty of its timing. We don't want to die with anger in the mind, and that's an important thing in Buddhism. Again, there are specific Discovering Buddhism modules on these subjects. But another thing is the other person might die, and imagine how you'd feel if your last experience was being angry with them. And I'm just going to share one example on that, which always stopped me. I'm sorry, I'm really, really thirsty. It's because I've been sick. I'll have to keep drinking. My mum always shared this story with us when I was a kid, and it always stuck with me. She's not a Buddhist, my mum. She's quite a spiritual person. And there was a lady who lived in the street, which was, maybe you'll know where Kipton is. It's not that far from where you are in Leeds. Had a blazing row with her husband, who walked out. She just got run over by a car. And this story was something that my mum always shared with us. And she used to make us, if we ever had a row in the family, sort it out before everybody separated, parted, which I really think was a really, really good teaching. And it is something to think about, you know, that really, really can happen. And obviously you feel sorry for people involved. I mean, that will really struggle to live herself. I don't know what the row was, doesn't really matter, but it was horrible that was. A last experience, obviously, with her husband. Can people hear me clearly? Is that okay?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's a bit iffy, is it, Adita? I'll keep going, but if it starts getting unaudible, can you sort of pull a face or something? We just got a message saying our internet connection's unstable. Okay, so that's the impermanence one. Now, the next one is reflecting on emptiness and selflessness. I've talked a little bit about selflessness and emptiness, I did particularly last week. And for anybody who missed that, you can listen to the recording on that. I mean, that is really the key to overcoming that fundamental ignorance that's the root of all our problems from a Buddhist point of view. So it's a really important subject, but very profound subject. But particularly when we're angry, it's a really good chance to catch this really strong sense of I that we have. I would suggest that when you're angry, we feel a very strong sense of I, and often a very strong sense of separation between ourselves and others, which is one of the problems that arises when that what we call that self-grasping ignorance we're taught. It's a really good chance to catch that, and it's another way you can utilize that experience positively. When you do that, then you can apply the teachings of emptiness to helping to address that and reduce it. But the first thing is catching it, and it's more obvious at certain times. And as I say, those kinds of situations, we've got a good time to catch it. Also notice the way other things appear to us. I mean, suddenly our computer and car can become kind of inherently the most useless thing in the world at that moment. And again, it's good to catch that and remind ourselves that that isn't true. Yeah, well, obviously, the most of the time they're quite useful. Also, applying it to people, when we get angry at people, they can suddenly appear to be like inherently bad, as if that's their whole nature. Or irritating, as if that kind of constitutes the whole of the being. But that isn't really the case. And again, you know, applying the teachings on emptiness can help to loosen that tendency. And sometimes, if you're falling out with a person, I mean, really thinking about that, reminding yourself how you genuinely feel about the person can be really helpful. I mean, I do this if Sarah and I have a row. And like most couples, we have a row. I mean, you do, I'm afraid. It's far fewer than we did years ago. But I find that really, really helpful sometimes. I hang on, remember how I felt about Sarah 10 minutes ago. But again, I have the habit of doing so. It's easy to do that. Number 8 on the list here is trying to empathise with the other person. And this is very, very important. I mean, empathising with others is important practice anyway. And reflect on times when you've done similar things in the past as well. That's always helpful, you know, if you're getting annoyed at something they've done. And the more we understand karma and another Buddhist teaching, more we understand that the person's actually harming themselves if they're doing something negative anyway. And again, that helps it be less likely anger's going to arise. You know, hopefully, eventually, we'll feel compassion rather than anger. 9 on the list is talking things through with the other person. That can be really, really important sometimes, but it's really important that you do it with good motivation and make sure you're not doing it just to prove that you're right, which again can be a bit of a trick, I think, if we do that sometimes. And sometimes we talked about this in relation to the verses. It doesn't matter how much you talk to them, it won't help, and you just have to let it go, you know, move on. That's number 10 on the list here is there are loads of meditations we can apply as antidotes to anger. And we're going to do a meditation on loving kindness at the end today, which Shara's going to do actually for a change, which can be very, very effective. But there are lots of Buddhist meditations, ones on compassion, equanimity, Tonglen, which we've been doing during this course. Again, I've put on the thing, See How to Meditate by Kathleen MacDonald. Clear explanations. I know I do plug that book a lot, but obviously I haven't got any vested interest in plugging it. It's a really useful book to have for anybody really who wants to practice Dharma at all. It's got beautiful descriptions of loads of meditations and really good, clear explanations of some quite profound Buddhist ideas. I mean, things like impermanence and emptiness. And then number 11 on this list, and this is one that actually came out from the meeting with Jamyang Ba, which is drawing inspiration from other beings who've experienced great injustice and difficulties and have managed to cope with it and realise that anger isn't the answer. I've put in here Nelson Mandela. He's a good example of that. His Holiness the Dalai Lama definitely is. If you look what he's had to cope with, what's happened to Tibet, and he's felt that ever since he was a young boy. There are very inspiring stories or writings by people who went through the Holocaust. And what I find particularly inspiring is when they realised that moving on the anger was important for themselves and not just for others, and they were just hurting themselves, you know. And if people can do it with that kind of provocation, then it makes me feel, with most of the silly things I get angry about, that you know, I can do it a bit better. And then the final one on the list, how are we doing it? Is mindfulness. I talked about mindfulness already on the course. Remember, one of the verses covered mindfulness in the 8 verses. Again, being mindful of not only what we're doing and saying, but what's going on in our mind, the kind of thoughts and feelings that are arising, is the really, really key to making all our practice and all our studies practically relevant. And it's through noticing what's actually going on and catching anger when it first arises that we can then apply these antidotes. But if we don't notice, it's kind of already got out of hand before. We probably don't want to apply antidotes once it's really got out of hand. And the final thing I've said, which I think I've included on yours, is we might notice in our life specific triggers where we're likely to get angry. In my case, it's working with my computer, and particularly if I sit down to do something quickly on my computer because I want to go off and do something else. And I've noticed this, I'm not very IT savvy, all sorts of things start going wrong, which is mainly because of my ignorance, it's not anything else. That can be a real flashpoint for me, and it's something I've had to work on over time, and it's got much better. But one of the reasons is if I'm going to do that, I now try and catch myself before I start working on the computer and remind myself, hang on, don't expect this all to go smoothly and get impatient to move on to whatever else it is you're doing. And just through doing that, it makes me more mindful. Now, that's just me. You will have in your life probably different triggers, and it might be a particular person or a particular situation. But just gathering yourself just before you go into a situation, that kind of situational person. And as I say, thinking, no, I'm going to be mindful and try not to let anger get out of hand here can be enormously helpful. Yeah, so that's it from me. I'm going to start the record now. We're going to do discussion. Sorry, sweetie, I don't know what to press here. Can you do that?
Relax your body and mind, and let all thoughts and worries subside. Mindfully observe your breath until you are calm. Your awareness is focused in the here and now. Think that you are doing this meditation for the benefit of yourself and for the benefit of others, to generate a more positive, loving energy in your mind, and to send it out to others, to send it out to the world. Start by imagining all living beings around you. Your mother is on your left, your father on your right, and other relatives and friends are around and behind you. Imagine in front of you those you dislike or who have hurt you. At this point, it could be useful to think of someone in particular you may have a problem with. Extending in every direction right to the horizon are all other beings. Feel that they are there, all in human form, sitting quietly like you. If it's difficult to imagine all beings, think of as many as you can comfortably. Stay relaxed, don't feel crowded or tense, but imagine that a sense of harmony and peace pervades everyone. Consider how nice it would be for yourself and others if you were able to love all beings. Contemplate that everyone wants to be happy, to avoid suffering, just as you do. They're all trying to make the best of their lives, even those who are angry and violent. Now generate a feeling of love in your heart. You can do this by thinking of someone you love and letting your natural good feelings for this person arise. You might like to imagine your love as a warm, bright light, not physical, but pure, positive energy glowing in your heart. Before you can truly love others, you need to love yourself. Loving yourself means accepting yourself as you are, with your present faults and shortcomings, and recognizing you have the potential to free yourself from all your problems. So really wish yourself all the happiness and goodness there is. Imagine that the warm energy in your heart expands until it completely fills your body and mind. If you have a habit of being critical, judgmental, and even angry towards yourself, it will take time to change this. So you probably will not suddenly feel love for yourself. But if you say to yourself, may I be happy, may I have what I need to feel happy, safe, loved, and satisfied, then gradually these thoughts and feelings will grow and become genuine. It's enough for now to just think this way, and say these words to yourself. Now meditate on love for others. Start with your family and close friends sitting near you. Say in your minds words such as, may you be happy. May you have what you need to feel happy, safe, loved, and satisfied. May all your thoughts be positive and all your experiences good. May you be free of problems, sickness, and sadness. May your lives be long and peaceful, and may you quickly fulfill your spiritual potential. Imagine the warm, luminous energy radiating from your body, touching them and filling their bodies and minds, bringing them the happiness they wish for. Again, don't worry if you don't actually feel love. It's enough to say these words and think these thoughts. In time, the feeling will come. Think next of someone you are not so close to. They could be people you work with, neighbours, fellow shoppers in the supermarket, fellow drivers on the road. Reflect that they, just like you, want to be happy and deserve to be happy. See if you can feel the wish for them to be happy by thinking, may you be happy. May you have what you need to feel happy, safe, loved, and satisfied. May all your thoughts be positive and all your experiences good. May you be free of problems, sickness, and sadness. May your lives be long and peaceful, and may you fulfill your spiritual potential. Then send the radiant energy of love from your heart to them, and imagine that they experience the happiness that they wish for. Lastly, turning your attention to the people in front of you, those you have difficulty with. Again, at this point, it could be useful to think of someone in particular you may have a problem with. Contemplate that they also need and deserve your love. Wish them to be free of the confusion, anger, and self-centeredness that drive them to act the way they do. Really want them to find peace of mind, happiness, and finally enlightenment. Think and try to feel sincerely, may you be happy. May you have what you need to feel happy, safe, loved, and satisfied. May all your thoughts be positive and all your experiences good. May you be free of problems, sickness, and sadness. May your lives be long and peaceful, and may you quickly fulfill your spiritual potential. Imagine that the radiant energy of love flows from your heart to them, and that they experience the happiness they wish for. Continue to send your positive, warm feelings out to all the other people around you. Love is an unlimited spring of good energy, so you shouldn't worry that it will run out. Completely open your heart and imagine your love flowing to every direction, reaching all the beings who are lonely, sick, hungry, confused, oppressed, frustrated, frightened. Their suffering disappears and their minds become peaceful, clear, and full of pure happiness. Wish them to have every good experience, from the satisfaction of ordinary needs and desires all the way to fulfilling their spiritual potential. As we draw to the end of this session, think that you definitely have the potential to love everyone, even those who annoy or hurt you, and those you don't even know. Generate a strong wish to work on your own anger, impatience, selfishness, and the other problems that prevent you from having such love. Keeping your mind open and trying to overcome ego's prejudiced attitude will leave much space in your heart for pure universal love, and thus happiness for yourself and others to develop.
Let's do a little bit of dedication now. Thank you, Sarah. So first of all, let's just reflect back on the effort we've made this evening, could be this course as a whole, the sessions we've come to. Lots of other things we could have done, so give yourself a bit of credit for bothering the effort you've made. Listening with an open mind and open heart, sharing so honestly, which has been a really nice feature of this group. Which I always think is actually a really important act of generosity. If we share really honestly like that, we're helping it. And let's think that any benefit at all that's come through this, we're going to take this out into our lives as a whole. Contribute through all the subtle workings of cause and effect. Reminding ourselves even a smile at the right time can make a really big difference in the long run. An act of kindness might contribute towards the long-term benefits of all living beings. And I'm just going to recite what are called 4 measurable points to finish. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and its causes. May they abide together in equanimity, free of bias, whether greed or hatred. May they never be separated from sorrowless bliss.